A token of gray. The wind on the high moors didn't just howl, it rasped a song of ancient sorrow, a dry, grinding lament of rock against bone that had long predated the arrival of man. It was a mournful dirge that whispered of things lost and things not meant to be found, a melody of shades and sorrows that had always been Isabel's lullaby. Her love, sweet Thomas, was a man of sun-warm fields and sturdy oaks, a soul untouched by the creeping mists that clung to her own heart. He saw the world in vivid hues of hope and green life, and in his eyes the high moors were not a place of dread, but of quiet, windswept beauty. It was this very innocence that had sealed his fate, though he knew it not. For months he had petitioned her with an earnest heart, his voice a clear bell in the gathering gloom. My dearest, my truest, I must meet them. It is the proper way, the only way for a man to ask for his bride's hand. He spoke of her parents with a reverence that made Isabel's stomach knot with a cold, mortal dread. She had explained their passing, their transference to the ethereal plane, in words she hoped would deter him, to convey a finality and a distance that could never be breached. But Thomas, bless his naive heart, took her metaphors for truths. He saw it not as a chasm of death, but as an elegant romantic quest. And so, upon his fervent insistence, she had finally relented, her soul a hollow crypt of grief. The day was chosen, a day when the moon would be but a sliver of bone, and the moors would surrender themselves to the deepest, most profound twilight. Thomas arrived with a wicker basket of provisions, bread and cheese, and a bottle of bright ruby-red wine. He held out his hand to her, and in his palm lay a single perfect red rose petal, a token he had carried with him for a fortnight. For the long journey ahead, he said with a loving smile that was a dagger to her heart. The ascent was not long, as time is measured by the mortal eye, but the world seemed to warp with every step. The stones underfoot groaned with a memory of forgotten things, and the air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, something akin to forgotten dust and cold incense, with a sharp iron tang of old blood. Thomas spoke with a childlike excitement, pointing out the strange, gnarled trees and the way the shadows danced like ghosts in the failing light. Isabel said nothing, her eyes fixed on the distant hillock where the veils between worlds were at their thinnest. They reached the summit just as the last vestige of sun bled from the sky. In the wan light, she could see a circle of standing stones, their surfaces slick with dew. They were not monuments, but teeth in the mouth of a wound in the earth itself. Thomas, utterly unperturbed, set the basket down and pulled her to him. It is a peaceful place, my love. A quiet place. I can feel their presence already. A cold wind whipped around them, and a single faded rose petal, a twin to the one he had given her, landed at her feet. It was the first sign that he should have known. Isabel's parents were not specters, not ghosts bound by chains, but echoes of a flesh that once was, hungry and mournful for a life they had been denied. They had not passed onto a higher plane, they had merely slipped sideways into a realm of insatiable want. Mother, father, Isabel whispered, her voice a brittle thing, I have brought him. From the shadows of the stones they emerged, not as the loving parents Thomas had imagined, but as shifting, ethereal things. They were like the moors themselves, composed of mist and shadow, with the barest hint of the forms they once held. Their eyes were not pools of twilight, but twin pints of a blackness so absolute it seemed to drink the light from his very soul. And where their hearts should have been was a vortex of absolute, consuming need. They were a hunger, an ache that had endured for generations. Thomas's hand, which had held hers so warmly, went cold. He saw them then, not as his future family, but as a void, a monstrous absence that could only be filled with what they lacked. He stumbled back, his face a mask of dawning horror. Isabel, he gasped, his voice a whisper of pure disbelief. What? What is this? They wish to be whole again, she said, her voice devoid of emotion, as though it were a memorized prayer. The ritual is simple, a life for a life. The purity of your heart is the key to their resurrection. Thomas looked from his beloved's unfeeling face to the empty, hungry forms of her parents. He saw then the cruel, cosmic joke that his love, his pure, enduring love, was not the token of their union, but the currency of his own sacrifice. He looked down at the red rose petal he had clutched in his hand all day. It was a vibrant, deep scarlet against his pale skin, a small testament to the truth of his feelings. A tear slipped down his cheek and fell upon the petal, an offering far more precious than any ritual could demand. He looked at Isabel one last time, a silent plea in his eyes, but she was already gone, her form now a part of the mist. He was alone with the collectors. He felt a cold dread as their shadows enveloped him, and he let out a choked cry as the ritual began. He looked down and saw his chest begin to crack open, like a shattered porcelain doll, his skin and flesh fissured and separated, revealing a gaping void where his heart should have been. The last thing he saw before the shadows consumed him was a single, fresh, vibrant red rose petal, now floating in the center of the ethereal vortex where his heart had been. It was a token of love's endurance, indeed, a symbol of how even the most brilliant, most beautiful light cannot survive in a world that only knows shades of gray.